I can see the.
Too often we hear people talk about what we don't have or what they wish we had. So my approach to this is just to help share with people what all is available. When people start to become more engaged, then it just makes everything richer.
Welcome back to our community. I'm excited to be back. I missed this last month.
That's
Ryan. Right. Kim filled in for me, and you were here as well. So you're kind of a regular guest here on the show. I'm really excited to have you back. Yeah. So
thanks for having me.
Andy Thornton, back in the saddle again, host of our community. Joining me today is Ryan Hinnen, the Senior Director of Mission Advancement at the one and only YMCA of Greater Peoria. So welcome back, Ryan.
Yeah.
It's nice to have you.
It's fun.
Thanks for filling in last month.
Absolutely.
We really appreciate that. So today on our show, we're going to talk about the word release.
Release.
Yeah, the word release. And we're going to talk about the importance of releasing our inhibitions, which, to be completely honest with you, I had to look up the definition of that word prior to the show to really get an understanding of what it was, because it's a word I've heard my entire life, a word I've used, but I wanted to make sure, do I really know what it means?
Yeah, what's keeping you back, right? Yeah. What's the real definition?
Yeah, so we're going to talk about the importance of releasing our inhibitions, or in other words, those things that hold us back from accomplishing our goals and our dreams.
All right.
So let's jump right in. So in your weekly winning resource, which those of you in the I've Decided community would have received on Sunday night via email, or maybe Monday via text, or maybe you just got it off the website. I don't know. Kim had a really interesting article that she shared that outlined, the 5 ways to release your inhibitions.
Okay.
So when you hear the word inhibitions, what do you think of?
Well, I think of things that are holding you back. Probably fear.
Okay.
Right. Maybe it's afraid of looking silly. For me, one of the things is I'd never done a vodcast before, so tackling some inhibitions right now. Some of those fears or inhibitions might be, I guess, social or cultural. Sure. Have a social cultural basis to them. Mm-hmm. Things that are just like, hey, that's not what we do, right? But so I think for me, that's where inhibitions comes from.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. If as we dig into it and kind of go through the article that Kim shared with everyone, some of those things that you talked about are part of the 5 solutions that are presented. All right. So the first thing that comes up in the article is do something outside of your comfort zone. And that I think that's really important for everybody.
Yeah.
And I think, the more uncomfortable positions we put ourselves in, or really, I don't like to frame it that way, we challenge ourselves.
Right.
When you do that, right? We stand up in front of people. I know my son, my 16-year-old son, who's a sophomore in high school, is doing his first speech.
Okay.
And he's been working on this for over the last week and doing his research, and I think he's doing it on Abraham Lincoln and the value of Abraham Lincoln. And so doing his research, building his outline, putting his presentation together, and today he's going to present. And he's probably already presented it by now. But when I dropped him off this morning, he's like, "Are you ready?" He's like, "I think so." And I wasn't even thinking about this show today, but that was my encouragement. It's like, hey, this is going to make you a better person.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right? Stand up in front of your peers and to be able to talk for 3 minutes. It feels like an eternity when you're 16 years old and you've never done that before, right?
You got to test yourself.
Yeah, you're going to talk about something knowledge that you've recently learned about somebody you've always known, because everybody's always known Abraham Lincoln, right? And this is going to make you a better person. So embrace the opportunity.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid.
And it can be, big. We were talking about, my situation. I actually came down with COVID in November, and I found myself laying in bed for 2 weeks. I wasn't bedridden, but I was quarantined to a bedroom and did a lot of reflection, which is kind of number 2 here, which is, you got to really look at yourself and figure out, do you love the person that you are? Look in the mirror, right? But for me, getting outside of my comfort zone took on a bigger role, and I have signed myself up for an adventure race. I was binge watching the Eco Challenge on Amazon Prime, World's Toughest Race, and thought, man, I want to challenge myself. I want to do something. Number one, I felt pretty dead at that time, and I was like, I need to feel alive, and these guys look like they are alive right now. So for me, it was sign myself up for something that's going to really put me outside of my comfort zone. But we should really try to do that every day. It doesn't have to be this big grandiose thing. It can be trying a new food or going someplace new, right? It doesn't have to be
introducing yourself to a stranger, which we come across all the time in our daily work.
He's a stranger now with the masks on.
Well, that's true. Some people we don't even think we thought were strangers weren't once they take their mask off, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's the challenge. Well, that's interesting that you've taken a negative experience of being positive with COVID, being locked up in your bedroom for a period of time as you kind of wait it out, and use that as an opportunity to kind of reevaluate, right, and reflect. And now you've come up with this challenge. You were telling me that you're going to be, I think, in June. Did you tell me in June?
Yeah, late June.
You're going to be doing this 200-kilometer race. Is that right? Did I get that right? Was I listening earlier when you were telling me about it?
30-hour adventure race. It's not the big Eco Challenge. That's an 11-day
30 hours is big enough, Ryan. Big enough.
But it's it's kind of a place where felt very comfortable with where I was, right. and that also, not that that's a bad thing, but felt like needed something real, and you needed to connect with putting aside those inhibitions, the things that are holding you back, and in that situation you're putting yourself in kind of a survival situation. Sure. And you're letting go of the stuff that holds you back from your true self.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping to get a lot out of this, and I've already got a lot out of the training and the preparations.
You're healthier, for one.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
Noticeably healthier. I mean, you've lost weight.
I have.
You're
down
in better
about
shape.
10 pounds. Yeah.
And you probably feel better.
Feel a lot better.
Sleep better.
Yeah. I'm
there's probably more work that I could give you to do at the Y because you got so much more energy, right?
There you go.
I'm kidding. So let's let's build upon that a little bit.
Sure.
So you're putting yourself, excuse me, in an uncomfortable situation. Yep. Back to the main point or the first point of doing something outside your comfort zone.
Yep.
And you're going to experience something completely different that you've never experienced before. What do you hope to get from that? What do you think are going to be some of the positive benefits of going through this experience?
Well, just the sense of accomplishment.
Yeah.
And it comes back to just like your son is challenging himself, right. And that's maybe it's a school assignment. Maybe he didn't volunteer for that, but it's a little challenging. I want to, I'm going to turn 40 in September, and it's like I want to know that I've accomplished something, that I can do this. I can test myself. Mm-hmm. Part of it is putting together a team, and that's our third point here.
I'm too far ahead.
Sorry. I don't know if you want to go there, but it's spending time with people that are supportive, and you can do that, in family, friends, a team environment, whatever it might be. And for me, it comes down to the accomplishment of testing myself, knowing I can get it done, and there's an opportunity that if we do well enough, that we can move on to a longer race, right. Which leads to a longer race. And I'm looking for purpose beyond work Ryan and
sure.
father Ryan and husband Ryan, and
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, shooting for something else.
I was thinking, you mentioned Father Ryan. You've got 3 children who are watching you.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm sure this is dinner table conversation, right? And an opportunity for you to represent this value
Yep.
and to your children.
Yeah.
So there's residual benefits beyond even the benefit to Ryan, right?
Right. Just last night we got to get on the trails at the YMCA. We've got new hiking trails and mountain bike trails, and there's a walking trail around the Y. And so we hiked as a family, and then we ran around the YMCA as a family a couple times just to, okay, who can keep up with mom? All right, who can keep up with dad? And then, so I wanted them to see me letting go of the fears that kind of held me back to be able to do something and challenge myself. And I want them to know that they can
Absolutely
do something like this too.
That's pretty cool.
Maybe they want to do it with me someday.
Yeah, that would be cool. You might not want to do 200 kilometers when they're your age, though, right?
Yeah, right.
That I think that's pretty cool. So the first strategy is do something outside of your comfort zone.
Yep.
Take some risk, make yourself feel uncomfortable, challenge yourself. The second strategy in the article was fall in love with yourself.
Yeah, and I
Fall in love with you. Why did that make you laugh?
Well, because that's kind of
It sounds kind of cheesy.
sounds kind of cheesy, but
Right? When it's framed that way, but it's important. You got to like yourself.
yeah, and if you don't like yourself,
Yeah,
that can be a powerful motivator to make a change
true.
and go out there and I'm not saying I didn't like myself. I'm okay with myself, but there were parts that I obviously wasn't content with and felt like I needed to make a change. So it comes back to reflection.
Yeah. Spend some time thinking about who you are as a person. Who do you want to be, right? And you in order to be successful, you have to like who you are,
Right.
right? And you got and love yourself. Really, it's important.
And and like I'm saying, if you don't necessarily love yourself, you can point out those deficiencies and say, okay, that's who I got to be if I'm really going to love myself.
Yeah, you have to know who you are as an individual. And sometimes knowing who you are means you have to be able to sit and talk to people and listen about who they think you are, right? Because your closest friends, your spouse, your parents, your siblings, go on and on and on. Those that are closest to you, they know who you really are, right? Because sometimes we don't always have a clear picture or understanding of ourselves. We tend to build ourselves up or maybe beat ourselves up more than we should, right? So it's really, really important to kind of seek some of that guidance and counseling out from others, I think, too.
Yeah.
Which leads us into the third point, which is spend time with supportive people.
Yeah.
So you got to surround yourself with people who are going to cheer you on. Like last night with your family out on the trails at the Y, they were supporting you in this effort, and you were doing something collaboratively and collectively as a family, which are great benefits from that. But
Yeah.
you got to surround yourself with people who are going to be honest with you.
Yeah, and the other side of that coin is you have to maybe kind of distance yourself from people who are not.
Yeah.
And choose where you're spending your time and who you're spending that time with.
Mm-hmm. I talk with my kids. This has been a lifelong conversation with my children. My 23-year-old son is tired of hearing it, I'm pretty sure. But it's so important. If you don't surround yourself with good people, the risk of you making poor choices is increased, right?
Yes.
If you're always hanging out with the wrong crowd, the chances of you slipping up and failing are and we're going to fail every day regardless of who we're with. I mean, we're all sinners. We all fall short of the glory of God, right? That's biblical and it's true, and it doesn't matter how hard we try, we're going to fail. But we can fail a heck of a lot more if we choose to surround ourselves with the wrong people, for sure.
I still give my mom a bunch of heck about a conversation I had with her when I was maybe a sophomore in high school, and little self-reflection, hearing some tough love from somebody, and also surrounding yourself with the right people all in one conversation, but comes up whenever I want to give her a hard time. I was going out for an evening with friends, and she's like, "Who are you going to be tonight?" And I looked at her and I said, "Oh, I'm going to be myself, Mom."
Uh-huh.
She looked at me and she said, "Why don't you be more like Scotty down the street? He's a nice boy." Whatever. I was a nice boy too, but she was just giving
Called you out.
She was like, just make some good choices, right? Just be like Scott.
Yeah, and I think it's important to hear that.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
It's important to kind of be challenged about and reminded, especially when we're younger, right? And when we're surrounded by good and evil everywhere, right? And we need to choose to be around the good more than the evil.
Right.
Now we shouldn't be afraid to be around the evil because we should be a positive influence. And that's the other side of the conversation for me is, when you're in those situations and around others who are making poor choices, be an example for the right choice. Right? Choose not to do the wrong thing and try to encourage those that are, because that's what we're supposed to do. That's why we're here on this earth, right? Is to support and encourage others, to love everyone, right? So it doesn't mean that we avoid them.
No.
But we do to a certain extent, I think. So I think that's really important. So spend time with supportive people. So just to recap, now that we're about halfway through, challenge yourself, do something outside of your comfort zone, fall in love with yourself, and spend time with supportive people. It seems to make a lot of sense to me, right?
Yep.
It really does. I'm on board with all of it.
And before you move on to the next one, I would switch the order around of these.
Okay.
Because I feel like if you're spending time with the right people, that something that's going to naturally come out of that is positive affirmations.
Okay, I gotcha.
And that was number 5 on the list in Kim's article. But if you're spending time with the right people, positive people, supportive people, those positive affirmations are going to flow a whole lot more easily. But that doesn't mean that, like you said, when you're spending time with folks and trying to be that light, you need to be providing those positive affirmations for others, and maybe that'll turn that whole situation around. But positive affirmation has a way, it kind of manifests itself then for your group and for your own little ecosystem.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about what positive affirmations look like, because for me, being a child of the 80s, all right, I'm 50 years old last September. I think when I hear that thought, you can probably guess the first thing that comes to my mind. It's Saturday Night Live. And there was a skit on Saturday Night Live. I can't remember the actor's name or the comedian's name. The individual would sit in front of the mirror and talk nice to himself. And it was really, really goofy and really, really weird, but it was really, really funny, which it should be if it was on Saturday Night Live. But that's what I think of first.
Sure.
But that's not what we're talking about necessarily.
Not necessarily.
In a sense it is. So let's talk a little bit about what a positive affirmation might look like in reality. So when you're going through that experience yourself, when you're positively affirming yourself,
sure,
what kind of things are you saying to yourself?
Well, man, that's a tough one. Maybe I don't do this enough.
Yeah.
Right?
I would say I don't.
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
When I think about positive affirmations, I went to the the classic couples book about the 5 love languages, and does your partner, your spouse, is that what fills their emotional tank, right? Is positive affirmations or words of affirmation. So I think I hope I hope Katie would say that I'm better at giving her positive affirmation than myself. But, for us, it's been encouraging each other along. We're both trying to get in shape right now. So it's like, just, hey,
Did you get your workout in today?
Did you get your workout in today? Did you do a good job? We're keeping track of each other on an app. Like, did you get this part of your workout in? Great job. And quite honestly, we're both feeling better about ourselves. I have no problem telling you this. I'm attracted to my wife.
I hope so.
Yeah. So telling her, hey, you're looking really great today. That workout is, I can tell that you're putting out a lot of hard work, and great job. So for us recently, that's been the way that things have gone.
I think I think you said it pretty well. It's much easier to positively affirm others.
Yeah.
right? At least it is for me. I don't think a lot about
Maybe I
telling
don't.
myself that I'm better.
Maybe I don't love myself enough just yet.
Yeah, I don't think that's the case. And maybe it's a man thing. I don't know. But I think I could certainly spend more time reflecting and thinking about that and kind of coaching myself, talking to myself. I mean, I spend a lot of time coaching kids. I mean, I'm a junior high basketball coach, so I'm in the gym a lot, boys and girls, and that's part of my strategy is to build kids up and encourage them and show them when they do things right. It's not always about, oh, you messed this up, right? We got to correct this. You have to show them when they're doing well also, and we need to take time to do that for ourselves. So in the article it says positive affirmations are positive statements that challenge negative thoughts. So when you have those negative thoughts, it's important, I think, to remember that, wait a minute, you can correct that by basically saying the exact opposite of what you were just thinking negative about yourself.
Yeah.
Really is just flipping it, right? In a sense.
And you can, somebody who, because it's hard to do that when you are maybe you're in that self-reflective mode and the negative thoughts creep in, but there's always a bright side to whatever you're dealing with, right? So, maybe it's someone who feels like they're heavy, is like they look in the mirror and they see somebody who's just way out of shape.
Right.
But at the same time, they can think about, man, how strong are you?
Right.
Right? To get around and do the things that you do. If I put in that's it. If I take that next step, if I put in a little bit of extra effort, I'm going to come out so much stronger on the other side of this.
And I would say you have to recognize the journey.
Yeah.
And the growth too. If you're going through a transformational experience of losing weight, to use your example, you got to realize, even though you're in the middle of it and you don't feel like you're getting much accomplished, or maybe you've kind of hit the wall, so to speak, and you're not seeing that progress, you got to be able to reflect and look back and see the progress that has been made to that point and use that as your motivation and kind of the affirmation to yourself to keep going.
Yep.
Keep going. Okay, we're running short on time, so let's get to the fourth point, or the fifth point, since you flipped them now.
Sorry.
It's okay, and I would agree with how you structured that. And I don't know that the author of the article intended them to go in that order or not, but it makes sense that it would flow that way. So the last one was be aware. Be aware of what those inhibitions are, is really what that means, right? And because if you don't know what they are, how can you fix them?
Right.
You got to have an understanding, right?
And we may not even, for me, we may not even realize what's holding us back, right? We encounter 1,000 situations every day, every week, where we're kind of like, am I going to do that? And then there's a reason that we don't. Right. There's that movie with Jim Carrey where he just, I can't remember the name of it right now, but he basically,
1 million of them.
Yeah, he basically answers like he can't say no, right? So he ends up, it was this horrible thing for him to deal with at the very beginning of the movie, but by the end, he's experienced so many new things and met so many new people and had such a great time that when he regains the ability to, decide his own path,
right.
He's had this enlightened moment, right? So if we're not reflecting again and being aware, what are we missing out on?
Yep. Yeah, one of the suggestions it makes in the article is to log your inhibitions. So in a diary, so to speak. Do you keep a journal or a diary, or
write things down
like that?
I write things down. I've never written down. I went through an exercise where I wrote down fears because we've talked in the past. I dealt with a fair bit of anxiety years ago, and it was a kind of a cathartic process to go through to actually write down everything that was kind of giving me a little pause and things I was worried about, and happy to say that came out on the other side of that. And but so I've never written down what I feel to be inhibitions. I was writing down big things that I felt were catastrophic at the time, not things that were, keeping me from
Holding you back, so to
Yeah.
speak, or keeping you from being successful.
Yeah.
No, that's
I
good.
think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I do too. I don't do it either. I write a lot of things down, but it's typically things that I need to do,
Right.
to keep myself on track. But I could see the benefit of recognizing those weaknesses and kind of logging them, journaling them,
Yeah,
bringing them to light, so to speak, and giving them life. I think when you write things down, you give them life
Yeah.
and a better understanding.
I'm a to-do list guy as well, but that to-do list gets pretty long. Maybe I need to think about what's holding me back from, what's inhibiting me from plowing through those lists.
Yeah.
Maybe that would be a good exercise to do in tandem.
Well, I'll publicly apologize for the length of that to-do list because I feel like I'm probably partly
It's not all you.
partly responsible for some of that. So, I think this has been great. I appreciate you joining me today. It's certainly an interesting topic, and hopefully for our listeners out there, they've gotten some benefit from this. Kim does a great job every week of putting together the resources for the I've Decided community, and the articles. What I like about the articles is they're usually short, to the point, so it doesn't require a ton of reading because I don't have time for it, and I don't really enjoy reading that much, to be honest with you, because I like to get to the point, right, and I need to get out of it what I can get out of it, and that's how this article is. It's really direct, to the point, gives you 5 strategy you can put into place and find some success. And hopefully it does that for you out there. We appreciate you joining us today here on our community. And Ryan, thank you for being here again today. I'll try to let you have next month off. But we look forward to being back in April. And get outside, enjoy some of this beautiful warm weather and sunshine. Come to the Y and experience the trails and the outdoor setting that we have there. We would love to welcome you there, or just get outside anywhere.
Yeah.
Because it's so beneficial to our health. We've been locked up in the cold of winter long enough, and locked up just in general, so to speak, because of the COVID restrictions. And the sunshine does us all wonders.
It really does.
So thank you for joining us on our community. We look forward to seeing you next month. Have a great day.
PeoriaLife.com.